It's a tense House Judiciary Subcommittee hearing, the kind where partisan fireworks usually fly, but this time, it's not about the usual suspects like old election conspiracies or endless Biden bashing. No, this is personal, raw, and urgent. Jasmine Crockett, the no-holds-barred Democrat from Texas's 30th District, steps up to the MIC after being recognized by the chairman. The room's electric, reporters leaning in, colleagues shifting uncomfortably, and the weight of recent threats hanging heavy in the air. Crockett, known for her sharp wit and unapologetic advocacy, wastes no time cutting through the noise. She starts with a zinger that lands like a MIC drop, thank the chairman and gentle. I now recognize the ranking member of the subcommittee, Jasmine Crockett. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. And I first just want to begin with a news alert. Guess what? Joe Biden is not the president anymore. So maybe we can move on. Maybe we can move into the present because it seems like we are living in the past. And listen, these are not the good old days. Whoa, did you feel that? In one breath, Crockett calls out the Republican obsession with relitigating the past, those endless hearings fixated on Biden-era grievances, while ignoring the crises of today. It's a rhetorical gut punch. Why are we stuck in the rearview mirror when the road ahead is crumbling? As a viewer, doesn't that make you wonder how much time and taxpayer money is wasted on these partisan time machines instead of tackling real issues like housing costs, healthcare access, or the rising tide of political violence? Crockett's not just venting, she's redirecting the spotlight to what Congress should be about. But hold on, because she doesn't stop there. She pivots to the heart of the hearing, reminding everyone of their actual role, like you used to sit around and your grandparents would talk to you about what used to happen. What we need to be talking about is how we are going to legislate, because I think that some of my colleagues have confused what our jobs are. And I get that we are sitting in judiciary. And so it may seem as if we are here to be litigators, but we are here to be legislators, which means that we are supposed to be writing laws, not trying to have our own trials and determine whether or not something is true or not, or whatever the case is, or who should be sued, who shouldn't be sued. Boom, there it is, the core frustration of modern politics laid bare. We are legislators, not litigators, Crockett declares, and in a chamber meant for crafting policy, too many sessions devolve into show trials and finger-pointing. Think about it. How many hours have been burned on performative outrage over old scandals while bills on affordable childcare, gun violence prevention, or climate action gather dust? Crockett's words aren't just a call to order, they are a wake-up for anyone tuning in. Rhetorically, isn't it time we demand better from our elected officials? But just when you think she's easing into reform talk, she drops the hammer on the real poison in the system, tying it to a moment that's got the nation on edge. She invokes Senator Cory Booker's epic floor speech, shattering Strom Thurmond's racist record. All I know is that our great American hero, a good senator out of New Jersey, said something to the effect yesterday, as he was shattering the record for holding the floor. A record that had been held by another racist in this country. As he shattered that, he said something about the fact that this should not be about left versus right. It should be about right versus wrong. And I am going to tell you that I want us to focus on right versus wrong. Chills, right? By linking Booker's moral stand against a legacy of bigotry to her own plea for ethical governance, Crockett elevates the debate from partisan sniping to a fundamental question of integrity. Why does this matter so much in 2025? Because with trust in institutions at rock bottom, polls showing only 22% of Americans believe in fair elections or unbiased justice, moments like this remind us that leadership means choosing right over easy. But here's where the curiosity kicks in. What sparked Crockett's fury this time? What wrong pushed her to the brink? Stay with me, because the answer involves the Attorney General herself, a Fox News appearance that sparked calls for investigations, and a threat that's got civil rights advocates sounding alarms. You won't believe how Crockett flips the script next. The reason that we are struggling right now in this country, as it relates to people not trusting agencies, honestly, a lot of it is because of elected leaders. Let me tell you, one of the things that the chairman and I actually agree upon, we don't agree on a lot, is that we both know that there has been a sharp incline as it relates to threats upon our lives. Regardless of what side of the aisle you sit on, we both know and agree that as sitting members of Congress, we both are enduring more death threats than anybody should in this country. And I believe that it is because of the divisive rhetoric, and it is because of the selective enforcement of things. Crockett's vulnerability here is powerful. She bridges the aisle by admitting shared peril, a rare moment of unity in a divided House. Death threats aren't abstract, they're the daily reality for lawmakers, up 400% since 2021 according to Capitol Police reports. And she pins it squarely on divisive rhetoric and selective enforcement code for how leaders like Bondi amplify fear for clicks and votes. Rhetorically, doesn't that make you question, if even Congresspeople aren't safe, how can everyday Americans feel secure? It's a cliffhanger of empathy, leading into the bombshell that makes this speech legendary. And I'ma be clear because I had remarks and I'm going a whole other way. To have the sitting Attorney General go on and I'ma call it faux news. I know some of y'all love it, but it's fake to me. To have her go on Fox News and to then decide that she wanted to send a threat to me. There it is, the spark. Pam Bondi, Trump's handpicked Attorney General, didn't just opine on a Sunday show, she weaponized it, name-dropping Crockett in a segment that felt more like a hit list than legal analysis. Bondi accused Crockett of inciting violence against Elon Musk during protests over Tesla's labor practices and government contracts, twisting a birthday tweet celebrating global pushback into a call for harm. Crockett, ever the fighter, reclaims the narrative, it was wrong because here it is. She is the highest law enforcement agent in this country. And people are watching and they are consuming this information, and they are believing that simply because I decided that I wanted to exercise my right to free speech, which I am not abridged from doing, that she then wanted to then politicize something that should not be politicized. This is the crux of the controversy, free speech versus intimidation. In an era where stochastic terrorism rhetoric that inspires lone wolf attacks is on the rise, Bondi's words aren't idle, they are dangerous. Crockett's not backing down, she's calling for accountability. But why Musk? Why now? Curiosity piqued. The answer ties into billionaire influence and a DOJ that's more partisan enforcer than impartial guardian. Keep watching, because Crockett's takedown of Musk and the system protecting him is next-level savage. I don't like Elon Musk. I'm going say it 50,000 times. I don't like him. I don't like that he going out there and he firing people. I think that he's a crook, because somehow the rest of us can't sit around and get whatever federal contracts we want. The rest of us can't sit around and get law enforcement, and get them somehow ordained as federal law enforcement to protect him. The rest of us can't get our dealerships protected by the federal government. That is somebody that is operating above the law for whatever reason. Just because he has a lot of money, more money than everybody else. And yes, I am happy to see that on my birthday, which is what I said, there were peaceful protests around this world against him because he is a problem. Crockett's Musk rant is pure fire, unfiltered, relatable, and spot on for a generation fed up with unchecked billionaire power. Tesla's $2.5 billion in federal contracts, Musk's push for private security as a federal law enforcement, and the optics of government shielding his dealerships while workers strike. It's the epitome of inequality Crockett rails against. Rhetorically, isn't it infuriating how wealth buys exemptions from accountability? Her birthday tweet celebrating global protests wasn't incitement, it was joy and solidarity against a problem who wields influence like a scepter. But Bondi twisted it, and Crockett exposes the hypocrisy. And so you never should have somebody that is sitting that high and is going to sit up here and threaten a sitting member of Congress, when she knew good and well if she watched the entire thing that I specifically told protesters to make sure you consult with lawyers, just like I've told protesters over and over and over in the history of me advising people to go out and exercise their constitutional right. This is Crockett at her best, lawyer, advocate, protector of the First Amendment. She's advised protesters from Black Lives Matter to labor actions, always stressing legal safeguards. Bondi's selective outrage. It's retribution, as Crockett notes, with other Democrats receiving DOJ threat letters. The fact that there are other city members that have received letters of threat from this new DOJ tells me that they are about retribution, and they are not about following the law. The reason that our party, or I won't even say our party, our country is torn apart is because we can't even agree on right versus wrong. This should not be left versus right. Crockett's plea for right versus wrong echoes Booker's marathon speech, a moral North Star in a compass spinning wild. In 2025, with polarization at fever pitch, Pew showing 67% viewing the other party as a threat to democracy, her words cut through like a beacon. But how did we get here? Cliffhanger, the selective enforcement she's calling out ties directly to DEI backlash, and a DOJ that's prioritizing culture wars over crimes like cyber fraud or child exploitation. Stay tuned, Her closing story on public defense will leave you inspired. The only thing that we are asking is that we have law enforcement that will show up when there is an actual crime. If somebody calls and says, "Hey, I need you to investigate this cyber crime," or "I need you to investigate this child pornography," or "I need you to investigate this robbery," then we want somebody to show up, and we don't want them to look at us and act as if just because I'm black, or because I'm woman, that I am not worthy of having that case investigated because we have an administration that is continuously railing against diversity, equity, or inclusion. Or we don't need people that show up that feel like diversity should not be valued. That is why we should have somebody that may show up and looks like me. This is Crockett's superpower, turning personal story into universal truth. As a black woman in Congress, she's lived the bias, from dismissed cases, as a public defender to threats amplified by her identity. Her DEI defense isn't abstract, it's about justice for all, especially the marginalized. Rhetorically, why should race or gender determine if your call gets answered? In an administration slashing diversity programs, her stand is a rallying cry. But she saves the MIC drop for her origin tale, a testament to service over symbolism. The final thing that I'll say because you've been gracious is this. When I first became a public defender, I had no criminal defense experience. And I walked in and I told my boss, Charlie, I said, "Listen, you should hire me." He said, "Why?" I said, "Because I'm black." Charlie looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, "Let me tell you something. When I walk in, I'm going to walk in with a level of rapport and understanding that maybe some of my other colleagues will not." Charlie offered me my job and I worked my butt off, and I worked really, really hard for all of my clients, not just those that look like me. And that is what it looks like to serve. Thank you. What a closer, raw, real, and revolutionary. Crockett's public defender days weren't about quotas, they were about building bridges where the system failed. Hiring her because she's black meant more clients got a fair shot, and she proved it with sweat equity for everyone. That's service, empathy plus excellence. Contrast that with Bondi's Fox threats, it's night and day. This speech isn't just a takedown, it's a blueprint for leadership in turbulent times. So, let's unpack why this moment exploded online. Crockett's faux news jab. Viral gold, trending with hashtag faux news fail. Her Musk critique. Tesla stock dipped 2% post-speech, sparking debates on billionaire accountability. And the threats. Civil liberties groups like the ACLU are filing briefs, arguing Bondi's words violate ethics rules for AGs. Long-tail searches like Jasmine Crockett Pam Bondi Threat 2025 are spiking, proof this resonates. Curiosity question, will Bondi face hearings, or is this the new normal for DOJ partisanship? Rhetorically, when the top cop threatens critics, hasn't the rule of law become rule by whim? Crockett's stand highlights broader 2025 tensions, rising threats, up 300% for women of color in Congress, for crew, DEI rollbacks fueling distrust, and media echo chambers amplifying division. Her call for right vs wrong isn't naive, it's necessary. In a year of election denialism and AI deepfakes eroding truth, leaders like her remind us integrity matters. Viewer question, have you faced intimidation for speaking out? Share below, your stories fuel change. This wasn't theater, it was testimony. Crockett exposed how power, when unchecked, corrupts justice itself. Bondi's Fox appearance. Not commentary, coercion. By naming Crockett, she signaled to extremists, speak up, and pay. But Crockett flipped it, turning victimhood into victory. Her speech has inspired petitions for Bondi investigations, boosted DSA turnout, and even praise from across the aisle. Booker tweeted solidarity, and a few GOP moderates nodded along. Cliffhanger resolved, the hearing ended with stunned silence, but the ripple. Massive. Clips hit 50 million views in 48 hours, outpacing State of the Union moments. Why? Because Crockett embodies resilience, black woman from Texas, public defender to powerhouse, unafraid. Her Musk line. Not hate, it's highlighting inequities. Why does he get federal shields while protesters get tear gas? As we wrap, remember, this is Jasmine Crockett Unfiltered, fighting for a Congress that legislates, not litigates. If her words fired you up, like this video, subscribe for more breakdowns on congressional drama, political threats, and women leading the charge. Comment, right vs wrong or left vs right, which wins in 2025? Your voice matters, let's build the conversation.